right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. Come on over to Odyssey Radio, see all the goodness that's Odyssey, and check out the schedule there. This show tonight, of course, is not broadcasting on Odyssey Radio because we are going live. And we're going live because we are broadcasting from the makeshift studio here in my makeshift life, in the makeshift trailer, in the makeshift form of life that I'm in right now in the current situation. And so everything is a little makeshifty, and we're doing our best to bring you the very best we can. But we're not broadcasting on the radio network. So technically right now, we're not a radio show. We're just a podcast. And that's okay. But we're a podcast of the Intrepid radio program. And for those of you listening to this later who may catch it in a different place than YouTube, via audio, you can find the YouTube stream for the live video simulcast over at youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And if everything looks a little funny to you, if you haven't been here, you don't know what's going on. Yeah, you see radio, field guy, that's right. Hey, Doug, how you doing? Hey, I thought I saw Leslie in here, did I? Was it Teresa? Oh, my mouse doesn't work on this because I'm on the phone. Hey, Leslie, how you doing? And Barbie D is here, and Delaney is here, and who else we got? We got Doug Stack. I already said hi to Doug Stack. And Slightly Slanted Sleuth, good to see you here tonight. And glad that you're all coming in. Master Finn, good to see you. So it's good to have you all here tonight and connect with you. Those of you who don't know, I'm working down in Louisiana temporarily. I am out of my normal studio, and so even my lights are a little crazy tonight. I was just on with J.V. Johnson. Some of you listened to his show. We just did a live roundtable with Duger and with Britt Griffith and James and Jimmy Johnson. I call him Jimmy. Everybody calls him J.V. And it was a political show. It was kind of nice getting my feet back into talking politics a little bit, which, you know, as a rule, we don't do on this show very often, only when it's necessary. So there you go. I had a good time with that and just bailed out of that 5 minutes ago, and we're now here. And so I want to welcome you and thank you for taking your time to come in and be here. You know, down here, there is, what would you call it? In life, we hit speed bumps. We hit things that were not as we conceived them, not as we planned them to be, that have run afoul of our expectations of something. And because of that, they lead to discouragements, depressions, setbacks, emotional issues that give us pause, make us take a step back and go, what the hell am I doing? Why am I here where I am? Why are things not going the way I've wanted them to go? Hey, Teresa, good to see you. And Michelle must be here too. McFree. I see somebody saying hi to her. I can't see my whole chat room anymore. Steve Clark, I saw you go by. Good to see you, brother. Glad you're here. And so, do you ever have those? Do you ever have the speed bumps of life? The things where you say, this is not going as planned. Something, I've just bottomed out my car of life on the speed bump of the universe, or the other way around. And can speed bumps actually be challenges to move forward? You know how we were reading from Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights? He was talking about how green lights are, you know, symbols and signs that tell us to go forward. Yellow and red lights tell us to be cautious, or to stop altogether our forward progress. And yet, even red lights and yellow lights can be green lights, they eventually turn into green lights because they make us pause, they make us stop, they make us let the traffic go by. And so there are things that go on in our lives every day that don't go according to plan. You look at a divorced couple with kids, and they'll say, that didn't go according to plan, did it? Because you'll find a couple that will fall in love, and they'll get married, and they'll have children, and then something runs afoul, and that marriage ends. And it happens all the time. Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for frivolous reasons, sometimes for selfish reasons, sometimes for abusive reasons, sometimes for adulterous reasons. Marriages end. But that was not the expectation when that couple entered into that marriage. That song is running through my head right now. It was, do you remember that song I played, Man of the Tombs, a long time back when we were talking about certain topics? And same guy, he wrote a song that said, I think it's called There's No Such Thing as Divorce, because he was talking to his children. The song starts out, my dear children, how I love you with my life. That's the opening words of the song. And that will never change, though your mom is not my wife. And even though I told you this would never come to be, please forgive me. And then he says, when people fall in love, they never see the day when one will leave the other and pack up and move away. And he goes on with this song, and the chorus is, and there's no such thing as divorce. No such thing as divorce between a father and his son, between a daddy and his daughters. And it's a very profound song that was going through my head as I was talking about this. And I was only using divorce as an example, by the way, of the kinds of speed bumps we face in life. Those things that happen that when your expectation was way up here or way out there, all of a sudden things change. The green light turns to a yellow light, or maybe even a red light. And then you have to stop and pause and wonder what the hell is going on. And it's things like, losing the dream job, losing a relationship that went sideways on you. It's the death of a loved one, an investment of yours that's tanked. When things happen in life, you can either let them define you, or you can let them launch you. And the choice is up to you. So, I want to ask you the question, are you defined by the setbacks, the speed bumps, the lack of expectation in your life? Or are those the things that launch you into doing something better and greater? Can you use the setbacks? Can you use the failed expectations to move you forward into something even better? Because you know what? Those things happen. If we believe that things happen for a purpose, if we believe that that the universe is in control, or God is in control, or things happen for reasons, that there is a predestination, that there is fate, that there's whatever you might believe. Or are you just a product that's floating around out there in a universe that has nothing to do with who we are, or where we're going, or what we're doing? Hey Delaney, good to see you. If we teach in-depth astrology, psychology, young people, that faded away. So one thing about the chat here, it comes up, you say psychology to young people, divorce can be eliminated. Yeah, I think you're right. Hey Ryan, good to see you in here. Glad to have you. And so, when you look at things that are setbacks, how do you deal with your setbacks? Nature is what we are, the leaders of our own way, says Slightly Slanted Sleuth. I believe that to a certain extent. And I'm not asking you specifically, Sleuth, but how many of us in here in this group believe that there is some divinity that is above us, that is sovereign over us? How many of us believe that even if we don't believe the way we may have been taught in Sunday school or synagogue, that we believe that there is something there, the originator, the creator, whatever you may call him. So all of us have something that we believe guides us to a certain degree. Because sometimes you say, if I am guided just by what I am, I could be a pretty lost person. Excuse me, what guides me through life? Is it something else on the outside? Ineffable, said slightly slanted sleuth. Indeed. And so I have to ask you that question. And I only ask that because of things that have come up here, things my son and I talk about. We have our little bits and sets of discouragement here. Not because we don't know there's a goal out there and we're going to reach it, not because we aren't positive about that. It's that you sometimes, in order to reach the goal, you have to hit the potholes and the speed bumps and the things that slow you down, the things that can be discouraging. Sam, do you mind if I tell your little story about your walk tonight?
Sure.
Oh, I lost for some reason, I lost my power. Lost the power to my light. So you're going to have to deal with, I think this quit on me. And so pardon me for the very instantaneous change to my lighting. There you go, that helps a little bit maybe. And so Sam took a walk tonight. He walked off without his phone. He was feeling some discouragements from personal things in his life, end of a relationship, all kinds of things here. We're here doing a certain thing. Hey, buddy, could you see is there a way we can plug this back in? Would you do for me a little tech? And I want to get this light plugged back in. It's driving me insane. It's a USB. And so we, and just plug it into the extension. I think my phone, which I'm broadcasting from, is charged up enough. And so Sam, in order to get away, he just wanted to take a walk tonight. He just wanted to walk, and that's how he clears his head. That's what he does. And so he set off just on the little road right outside our camper here, walked straight out the driveway and all the way up the road, and about a mile up. And he got stopped by a police car. So here's Sam, feeling a little discouraged. Things aren't going quite the way we thought they would. Now that's not to say we're not in demise or anything here. You just hit those speed bumps and you have to adjust course. You have to learn new things. You have to do some things. And so we were a little frustrated about some things is probably a better way to put it. Very frustrated. And Sam had other discouragements going on, so he went for a walk. That's how he clears his head. And so he's just walking down the road, and a squad car pulls up behind him. He doesn't look much. I think he just thinks it's a car pulling up behind him, coming up the side street of this street, quiet residential street. And over the loudspeaker, the officer tells him to put up his hands and to back up against the car. And he comes out and he cuffs Sam and sits him on the curb. And starts rifling him with questions. What are you doing in this neighborhood? Mind you, this is not a ritzy neighborhood. It's not like a gated community he walked into. This is your simple little, probably what would be $150,000 to $220,000 homes in there. Think of your low ranch-style homes that are a little bit bigger, just a nice neighborhood, nice yards and all of that. Typical middle-class neighborhood. Not even upper middle class. And so he's walking and they cuff him. He sits him on the curb, asks his questions, empties all his pockets, looks at his ID, and Sam is curious, obviously, understandably curious. What are you stopping me for? Walking? And the cop said that somebody in the neighborhood called in a report that there was a strange man in their neighborhood. And on that call alone, my son gets stopped and cuffed, and all he's doing is walking when the police pulled up anyway. And Sam pretty much was like, he was as respectful as he could be, but at the same time, it's like, why are you handcuffing me and detaining me for taking a walk? Well, now you can, and when he finally let him go, he apologized to Sam, and he said, well, now just make sure you don't do anything bad tonight. And Sam's like, I wasn't planning on it. I was out for a walk to clear my head. And he got to talk to the cop a little bit, and tell him, here's what's going on, here's some of my frustrations, and so on. Yeah, they handcuffed him. Hey, Sam, when they handcuffed you, were you flailing your arms wildly? Were you rebelling? Were you resisting the cop? What happened that he actually put handcuffs on you?
He pulled up behind me, told me on the loudspeaker to put my hands in the air. So I put my hands up. He asked me to walk back towards the car, told me to stop. He said, now put your left hand behind your back. Put my left hand behind my back. Put your right hand behind your back. I put my right hand behind my back. Then he cuffed me. And he sat me on the curb.
There you go.
That was it.
Field guy says in Louisiana, they cuff you first and ask questions later. That's interesting. We got pulled over on the drive out here in Louisiana between New Orleans and Lake Charles, somewhere along the way. We were about an hour and a half out. And got pulled over in the pitch black, and they pulled me over because they said I swerved over the white lane, the 2-lane road. And he just wanted to make sure I was okay. And he didn't cuff me or anything. He had me get out of the car and come and talk to him. And I said, no, nothing wrong. I said, I just swerved. I was looking at my son and talking, and I swerved a little bit. That's all I did. And I didn't dramatically swerve like I was going to go off the road. But now they didn't arrest me or anything like that, and they were just fine. I didn't get a ticket or anything. Teresa says, hey, Sam, that sucks. And cops are crooked mostly, depending on the parish, says Field Guy. I refuse to believe that, Field Guy. I think there are crooked cops out there, but I don't think they're all crooked, as the rule goes.
I think they're all abusive of their power. Maybe not crooked, but I believe
power goes to the head.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike Yahudi! Good to see you. And so, so that was Sam's little discouragement, his little setback, his speed bump today. He's already got some speed bumps going on, and, little frustrations in life. And so my encouragement to my son is, we persevere, we move forward. I'm sorry that happened, son. That sucks. And we had our little spitting on the ground session, pew on them, for pulling you over for that stupid reason. Some neighbor down the street there, and by the way, that's a neighborhood we called on a few weeks ago. We knocked on all those doors, and there was one gentleman that was going to have us do his work. And an elderly gentleman, I think I told you all about him, Mr. Hess. 88 years old, he was an old school superintendent. We stood there and let him tell his stories for a good half an hour, 40 minutes of, back before I was even born. When I was born, the man was already 28 years old. And his stories of growing up here and becoming the school superintendent, getting his master's degree and so on. A nice man. This all happened right kitty corner across the street from his house. Sam even said, hey, we've called this neighborhood. We work here. We know Mr. Hess right over there. And the cop even told him, oh, I know Bill. And so on. So all of that was there. Hey, Crystal, nice to see you. Fear of someone walking freely down the sidewalk, shaking in their bed. There wasn't even a sidewalk, by the way. That's kind of vision the neighborhood. It's kind of wide open, big lawns, not a lot of trees. But the lawns are manicured enough. It's one of those neighborhoods where middle class people mow their lawns. They trim their hedges. It's not a keep up with the Joneses neighborhood, but I think a lot of older people in there. And so this is something that happened to Sam tonight. And so you say, and he comes back and he's like, I'm already discouraged. I already have these problems at home, not at home. And I reminded him today, I said, your home is not back where you came from. Your home is here right now. Your home is with me. And your home is going to be moving back where your family is. That's your home now. And I'm not imposing that on him. This is stuff we've all talked about. And so I said, your home is here. There's no going back to where you came from. There's nothing there for you now. So there is an interesting little book I have here. Believe it or not, it's the same title. It's Speed Bumps. My Journey Using Life's Challenges as Launching Pads, from this author. Now, he starts to write in here. I just want to read you a little opening from his book. His introduction. Pardon me to put on my cheaters. Captain Kirk in The Wrath of Khan, remember him? He had to look up the codes, and he has to pull out his glasses, and he goes, damn. He puts his cheaters on. So I've got my bifocals. He starts his introduction by saying, once upon a bike, and it's the children the world almost breaks. Who will grow up to save it? It's the children the world almost breaks that will grow up to save it. Frank Warren said that. And many people tend to look at negative events in their life as a way to define themselves. You ever done that? Have you tried to define yourself by your negatives? Growing up in a broken home, losing a dream job, the death of a loved one that happened too soon. It disarms people. And they feel like their bruises and their scars disable and paralyze them from moving forward. So they're all constantly using their past as a measuring point to how they feel about themselves, rather than looking to how they see themselves, how God sees them, how they see their identity, the way they were designed. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this book is written by a Christian writer. And he says, if you're wondering about the biblical content here, he says, a recent read of the story of Peter in the Bible blew me away. Peter flat out disowns Christ, saying how he never even knew the guy. Remember that? The denial of Peter? He's standing at the fire while the trial of Jesus is going on, and some of the people standing there said, hey, you're one of his followers, aren't you? Nope, not me. Hey, I'm pretty sure I saw you, said somebody else. You were with him. Nope, not me. And then he flat out, he swears, and he says, I don't even know the man. And so when you read the story, this author says, I realized that when Jesus returned, he appeared to Peter when he was alone. Peter was so worried and so ashamed and so remorseful about his actions. He probably didn't want to be around anyone at the time. And this is obviously a bit devotional, the way he's writing this. I was so impressed to see that regardless of how gnarly the story is, we need to move forward in our identity according to how we see ourselves and how God sees us. Not how we see ourselves as the primary motivator, but how God sees us, according to this author. God was intentional in meeting with Peter one-on-one to remind him of who he really was, that he was loved and forgiven, that he was cared for. Now take that principle that's set forth in New Testament Scripture and think about how many people, maybe even you, maybe even me, maybe even my son, we feel like we're in the pit, or we're hardened in the cement, when the reality is that we're just in water. We believe the situation is hopeless and that there's no way out. This is as good as it gets. Remember the Jack Nicholson movie? Is this as good as it gets, he asked. This is it. Folks, look at your life right now and ask yourself that question. Is this as good as it gets? If you want to get out of it, then come on. Let's get out of it. For some people, God says to them, I can lift you out of this. You can take a speed bump and let it destroy you in your journey, or you can launch yourself from it. So, I'm rather excited to take my hits and my bruises and my bumps, my scars, and build on them. That's part of the story. Part of my story, anyway, if anybody knows me. This is why I take this show, as I said the other night, I share my struggles with you. I share the things that motivate me, the things that move me, the things that hurt me, the things that, because these are the green lights to go forward, the stop lights, the yield lights, or the eventually turn into the green lights. The speed bumps turn into launching pads. And good results come from great gifts, but great results come from great gifts refined by extraordinary guidance. If you're tired of coming short of the potential you have, maybe it's time to benefit from hearing other people's stories. Benefit from the mentoring process that's there. To benefit from the people around you that maybe know more, not because they're more intelligent, but because they've been down the path. Hey, Leslie. She says, good night, Scotty. Good night. Oh, do you have to leave? Leslie, it was good to have you here if you're taking off. I'm glad you're here. So, or are you saying good night as in welcome? So, good night. She must be taking off. Good to see you, Leslie. Nice to have had you here for a little bit tonight. So, all of you ask yourselves the questions about where you've come from, what you're doing, what were your expectations. Sometimes expectations, we set them so high, even for ourselves, we can't meet them. So where are you with that? Hey, Amanda B. Nice to see you, darling. And so, there's all kinds of things that set us back. Those of you who are on my Facebook, I put up a Facebook post earlier today, I think it was. God, it seems like such a long time ago this morning. And just fuming a little bit, spouting, blowing steam about things that people have said to me and so on. And you know, I don't put those up there because I'm some kind of whining, simpering, curled into the fetal position wallflower that needs to be coddled. I put those things up there because I hope that by sharing my experience like I do in this radio show, that I can, some of it was to blow steam, the other part of it was just to let you know what I'm thinking. And maybe some of you hit the full thing. Need a full mental detox, says Amanda B. Yeah, you or you're talking about on this topic. Hey, Crystal, thank you. And so I put that stuff up there to say, yes, I have emotive responses. I'm human, just like all of us, obviously. Goes without saying. But there are things that I sometimes need to say because I'm blowing it off of my chest, I'm getting it off of my head, out of my head. I'm maligned by something. I always have said I'm not offended because offense is something I choose. I bring it on myself. But there are times when I get taken off guard and I'm not offended because I don't feel offended like somebody has offended my person. I feel attacked sometimes. I feel maybe that's offense of a different kind. Or you feel that sometimes you make yourself pause and you ask because of somebody's criticism, wait a minute, do I deserve that criticism? Did I do something I'm not aware of? Do I have a blind spot? Sam is here, by the way, Johan. He's just over in the other room. Are you calling me a wanker, Amanda B? So sometimes we have that stuff that happens. I get it too. For as bright and shining and effervescently positive as I am in life overall, I have my setbacks. So I figure if I have them, everybody else has them too. Because I generally like to look at the setbacks and work around them and work over them and work through them. As I take a swig of my Stella. That was for Jimmy V's show. So it's what's left over. So I want to, and I said, and a lot of people came in to that post and made some comments, and you're an okay guy and kind of thing and all that. And I said, I'm not looking for attaboys and you're a good guy and I love you and all of that. So do I, Crystal. So do I. Steve says, I love everybody because love helps keep me alive. That's it. If we focused on our negatives, where would we be? If we focused on the speed bumps, where would we be? So, what I want to encourage everybody to do is what I encourage myself to do. What I encourage my son to do. It's stop. Stop for a second and look out and say, my goal is out there. I'm still focused on attaining that goal. I may still have some shit that goes on. Is there something out there that's trying to thwart me in my forward progress? No. Is the devil trying to thwart me? I don't think so. I think sometimes life is life. I remember, and I've shared this with you before, 20 years ago plus, I had a pastor of mine that was a dear friend. And I said, why is this happening? What is God trying to teach me by allowing this horrible thing to happen in my life? And as a pastor, I really respected this response. So it was something I would never have expected to come from a pastor. He said, maybe God's not trying to teach you anything. Maybe this is just life. And sometimes life is crappy. And sometimes you need to work through your problem. You need to look at it and say, I have the ability, if God has done anything, He's given me the ability to persevere. He's given me the ability to think. Given me the ability to move forward. And if it's not God, a deity that's doing that, is it the universe? Is it the originator that created these things within me? So, that's the way I see all of this. I don't think anybody is there to thwart us. Why would they be there to thwart us? Then again, you said, I saw all y'all the day of your birth, said Johan. I'm missing context because I'm not seeing the whole thing scroll up. But that's something I want you to take to heart because I dealt with it today. I allowed my own spouting steam this morning to discourage me a little bit in the back of my head, and that's why I had to come back in and say, wait a minute, I'm not really discouraged. Do you realize, folks, how often we talk ourselves into our own state of discouragement? Scotty's mom's listening to you. She's finally up from Sydney. Oh, hey, Mom. Hey, Amanda B's mom. Good to see you. Glad you're here. And by the way, I'll say for you specifically, as I would say to anybody who's new to the show tonight, we are in kind of makeshift temporary digs right now. I'm away from home. I'm traveling. And this is not my normal studio setup. And the sound is different. The ads are different because there aren't any. You don't get to see all my little pictures and my little scroll bar across the bottom and all of that. So we are in the makeshift studios broadcasting live tonight from somewhere in Louisiana, not far from the Gulf Coast. And so that's for all of you joining us. And it seems more informal than normal. I don't have my set background. I have the wall of my camper behind me. Teresa said, we got you, Scotty. That's what matters. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that. And by the way, so again, the only reason I bring all this stuff up, The reason I made a long post on Facebook this morning is because I use the events of my life to formulate the things I like to teach. Because if I'm feeling shit like that, you guys are too. Because I'm a normal person. And hopefully we're all normal. Except for Doug. Let's see. Johan says, I'm 56 and I look 98 because it's gone away. I've been birthing y'all gracefully. I'm a bullhorn. There you go. I'm 60 years old. Sorry, Doug. I took the shot. It was there. It was just for fun. Love you, brother. And so this is the beauty of broadcasting live and seeing the chat room. Amanda B's banned for 2 months. What are you banned from, Amanda B? I'd be very curious to know. So I'm 60 years old, and the only reason I bring that up is, 10 years ago I looked 20, 30. The age has a way of catching up. If you keep your youth for a long time, it seems like there's a point where that snaps over and you click over and suddenly 60, and I now look 65. 44, but 44,000 feelings, says Crystal. You're banned everywhere, says Field Guy. So, we will not have anybody slamming anybody in the chat room. Like I just did Doug. That was a joke. So, let's everybody be kind to everybody. We don't all have to agree to be kind. Where did you see in the rule book that it says to be kind to somebody, to be kind as a person, that you need to agree with them? I never found that anywhere. So, none of us is above saying and doing things that other people don't like. I expect kindness to come to me because I put kindness out. Be kind, be courageous. Step forward. So, that's all I want to say about that for tonight. That whole thing. I did want to, because I'm in kind of this makeshift mode, I'm relying a bit on books I'm reading and things like that. Why did you leave JV's stream? Now, you don't have to share any nasty stuff on here, Field Guy, but why are Louisianers boycotting somebody's stream, like JV Johnson? So, JV Johnson's a pretty cool guy. I like him. You don't have to share any dirt in here, Field Guy. I don't need to hear that. That doesn't need to be part of the chat room, but I asked, why boycott somebody? Be good, be helpful, be normal. Girl Amanda. There you are. Is that how you describe yourself, Amanda? I think that's not a bad thing. So, he basically told you last year that you weren't welcome there, so all of Louisiana is boycotting him now? That's between you and Jim. Get it worked out with Jim. All those things are personal things. And you know what? It all depends on what you say, how you do, how you act, what you present. Some people might not like what Amanda has to say. Some people might not like Field Guy and the things he has to say. Some people might not even like me, and then they won't listen to my show. That's okay. Everybody's welcome here as long as you treat everybody well. That doesn't mean nobody can argue. Doesn't mean you can't have discussions and debates and even heated ones with each other. It just means I won't tolerate nastiness in my chat room and on my show. There's somebody, I've only banned one person from this show, ever. And I did it. And it's because of very disparaging, not very nice things that person said to me, personally. And I said, you know what? That's the way it is. You don't have to be here anymore. So there you go. Moving on. Moving on. Last night, I read you some... I've been reading little bits and pieces of this book because I think it's a really good book. If you want to pick up a good memoir of somebody, it's Matthew McConaughey, his memoir. And so, I'm just looking at the chat room. The nasty wasn't one-sided, so... Delaney says, nobody has the balls to say anything to me. I was told I'm pretty scary. You're not scary. You're just weird, Delaney. Take that with love. Hate kills me, but love keeps me alive, said Steve. Damn straight, Steve. Johan says, the dirt gets washed out with the dirty water. There it is. Doug says, I don't like what I have to say half the time. That's all right. Everyone likes me, says Field Guy. Hell yeah. Scott Allen gives us a heart. I'm just looking to see if I missed anything. Be good, be helpful, be normal, said Amanda. And so, Scotty's on a bashing roll tonight. Yes, I am. I've bashed 2 people already. I can do 3 or 4 if you want me to. If I really work on it, then you could all bash me. So, why don't you love me? So define normal in here again. Teresa, define normal. Who are you asking me to define normal? What you see in this whole group in here tonight is what's normal. That's normal. Normal doesn't have it's not like mercury rising. It's not like water level. That's what I was looking for. It doesn't have a level state. It goes all over the place. Yeah, you can do a roast of me. I had a roast done of me a few times in my past. Formal ones in front of an audience. That was interesting. Teresa says she's not normal. Is normal normal? Who defines what normal is? That's like asking the question, who defines who God is? I haven't yet seen God come down and define who he is to us. Somebody say, well, you got your Bible. It's right there in the Bible. Well, you know what? Did God write that? Well, the Bible says that he inspired it. Nothing written that he didn't. Tell me from outside the Bible, step outside that box, and tell me who God is. Outside the realm of faith, tell me who God is. We talk about that a hell of a lot on this show. So, I'm going to get into something I don't want to get into. You're going to lead me somewhere I don't want to go tonight. My heart figured out divine for itself. See, and that's great, Crystal. And I'm not damning anything you said. I'm not taking you to task, so don't take it that way. But when you define who God is, how do we know that the next person who defines God differently, that isn't who God is? Is God, and it leads me, Crystal, you've led me to ask a question. Is God who I make him to be? It to be he, she. I use him because it's easy. Is God who I make God out to be? Or is God something that exists as an absolute outside of what I determine God to be? Is God an absolute? Or is God a gelatinous floating piece of flotsam that I can mold and shape to be what I want it to be? Am I God? Are you God? The question comes up. I'm not God. You certainly know I'm not. It's individual and within for me, says Teresa. Doug says, am I God or are you God? Crystal says it's personal. Yes, for me. It is. I don't know. I'm just part of the mystery. That's it. That's what normal is right there. We're all part of the mystery, Crystal. After his Cadillac commercials, I began to question him. He needs to speak up. You talking about God? I didn't know God did any Oh, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. I don't care if he does a Cadillac commercial. You know what? Getting paid. It's a job. I don't. If somebody paid me $1 million to do a Cadillac commercial, you know what I'd be doing? Cadillac commercials. I don't care about that. That's me personally. You can care about that. I'm not demeaning you for caring about that. I don't. Who cares what Matthew McConaughey makes advertising Cadillacs. You might have a reason, I guess, Johan. You care. So you can care. That's okay. And people can disagree you and even argue with you over it. But that doesn't make me want to treat you with any less kindness. I care more about being kind than I do about arguing with you about who advertises for Cadillac. Amanda says, when I pray, it's the sky and my Father. Matt Finn asks, how high is your blood pressure today? Anyway, I don't know who you're talking to. You talking to me? I don't know. I didn't test it today. So I feel pretty good today. I think I'm okay. I've got my frustrations. Kind is sometimes better feeling than being right. That's it. I put up a little post. I think I posted it this morning, earlier yesterday. It's a picture of me in the Sinai, and I'm up on a mountain, and I'm overlooking the desert, and I've got my fedora on, and a bottle of scotch sitting by me, taken from behind. I'm looking out. I said something like in there that... I don't even know what I said. I can't remember. It was an old post that I redid. And it's something about, I'd rather be kind, is the idea, the paraphrase of it. I'd rather be kind than be right. When I was in marriage counseling with my wife, Rainey, yeah, we've been to marriage counseling. I love my wife immensely. But we were once in marriage counseling. And that was, we've been married now for almost 14 years. And that was maybe 4 or 5 years in. We were in marriage counseling. And we were presenting our sides of things. And it was almost turning into a fight. Just presenting our cases. What do you believe is the problem, Rainey? He asked. Scotty, what do you believe are the problems? And we wanted to interrupt each other and say, no, it's not, blah, 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 blah. How bickering between husbands and wives can go, especially when they're not getting along very well. That's my phone, Steve. I'm broadcasting from my phone, and I didn't turn off the notifications, so it's going to ding every now and then. Sorry about that. It's other announcements. People sending me messages. Every time you hear a ding, somebody's sending me a message. So, and McConaughey, yeah, I thought he did the Lincoln commercials, not Cadillac. So if you don't like Cadillacs and you don't like McConaughey because he advertises Cadillacs, your angst is misplaced. He advertises Lincolns. That's right, I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, Doug, call me right now, meow. Yeah, it is Lincoln. And so... where the hell was I? What was I saying? Rainey and I went to a marriage counselor. And when he heard us starting to bicker, he stopped us. He goes, okay, everybody, hold on a second. And he said this to us, and I've said it on this show before. He said, do you want to be right, or do you want to be married? And, immediately... it broke the ice with us a little bit, but it was a very serious, profound point. Because it was like, well, right. Well, and married. We're here because we want to be married, right? We want to choose things out. We want to choose things. We are here, we made the choice because we wanted to save the marriage. So, if we disagreed on something, where there are two sides of seeing it, and I was insisting and pushing that I was right about something, I might push my need to be right. I might push my marriage right out the window. And I'm not talking about is murder right or anything like that or wrong. I'm talking about, do you need to be right in an argument? Do you need to always be right? Or do you want to be married? Do you want to be together? Do you want to do the things you're doing? Sometimes just being right isn't the end-all and be-all of anything. My mission in life right now is to prank call Scotty, says Teresa. Thank you very much. If any of you want to do that, that's 651-468-8115. You'll find it. So I did want to talk a little bit more out of McConaughey's book because I think it's a really good book. And the mission in life now is to prank call Scotty. You go first, McFree. I don't argue with my wife because she's always right, says Doug Stack. You know what I'm learning? This is what it comes down to. Male and female English. They are two vastly different things. And while men land the airplane, women like to circle the airport when it comes to an argument. There are all these differences. I brought up the differences, men are rivers. Men are puddles and women are streams. Men, we can jump from puddle to puddle to puddle to puddle in life. One puddle's work, the other one's sex, the other one's relationship, the other one's baseball, the other one's whatever. We jump from puddle to puddle to puddle, and we compartmentalize as a biological isn't the word I'm looking for, and not metaphysical, a physiological wiring. That's the way we're wired. Women, on the other hand, tend to be streams. While men are all these different puddles that they jump to and never any of them will meet, women are streams. Everything runs in one fluid stream. And again, this is a physiological generality. But this is the way men and women are different. And so a woman might see something one way, while a man sees something the other way. If I say to my wife, stop circling the airport and land the friggin' plane, am I being kind to her? Am I imposing on her what my belief is the right way to do things? You know what? You know what relationship requires most of all? It requires vulnerability. Vulnerability. I open myself up to be vulnerable to that other person. And if I am not vulnerable to that other person, you know what? I'll be a bachelor the rest of my life. That's a guy. And so, being vulnerable to the other person means I sometimes give up my right to be right in order to preserve the union between us. So, do you want to be right or do you want to be married? And apply that across the board to different things. Do you want to be right or do you want to be kind? Do you want to be right? Vulnerability is strength, Michelle Cannon-Free says, and I agree with you. I always drive. I don't trust anyone else to get us where we're going. Says, was that Doug? Yeah, that was Doug. And Doug, I'm not picking on you. Somebody might call that controlling behavior. I got to control the drive. I can't let anybody else drive. You know what I strive to do when my wife drives? After I had my heart surgery, my hip surgery, and all those surgeries a few years ago, I don't drive that much when my wife and I go somewhere. I let her drive. And when I drive, my wife is a basket case. Sorry, honey, if you're listening. She's got anxieties. My wife, if I'm backing out of a slot, she's looking to make sure there's no cars coming. Watch out for that light. Oh, look, there's a squirrel on the road. Slow down. You're going too fast. Oh, go, go, go. Oh, you almost hit that guy. I'm like, I saw him. I didn't hit him. So, you've never been in the vehicle when my wife is driving? Maybe not. I'm not cutting her any slack, but I'm just saying, sometimes, now like I look at my wife can be a little controlling sometimes, believe it or not. And I think here, let's get my wife out of the picture on this one. A generalized statement here for you. The more controlling you are, the less you are able to be a passenger in a car. Okay? Doug, that's not a slam on you either. I'm just saying, people who tend to want to be right or tend to control more, they're the ones that are, while you're driving, they're going to look at everything you do. They worry about everything you get. I have deliberately over the years set myself to be somebody that says very little when my wife drives. When she pulls out, I don't look for her. I figure she's the driver, she's supposed to know this stuff. Now if I catch something, I might say there's something, we're going to get T-boned. You know, I might say that. But I try not to intrude upon my wife's driving. It's her thing. I'll look at my phone. I'll talk. I'll sing. I'll do other things. So it was a kind slam, Doug. So Johan's taking off. Good night, Johan. So good to have you in here. Got to run. Dalton needs me. You go take care of business, brother. And your dogs are controlling, says Steve Clark. And so, yeah, it was a kind slam. Doug, none of my slams on you are serious tonight. It's just fun, making fun. You can take it. You're a big boy. You wear your big boy pants. So, you know, and if you like to drive, if that's what you and your wife have come to, that's fine, Doug. Perfect. Make it so. Make it happen. Your wife is probably adjusted to that. I don't drive. Doug drives. She might have her reasons. You might say, I drive because I know how to drive better than my wife. My wife might say, if we got her in private to talk about it, she might say, I let Doug drive because he thinks he's in control of everything, and why rock the boat? That might be what's going on there. We just don't know. So, anyway, you all know what I'm talking about there. You're not supposed to hit squirrels, Steve. The slippery slope of fun, yes it is. Matthew McConaughey, and talking about his parents in this book, Green Lights. I want to share this with you because I think it's really cool stuff. He was talking about how he was parented, how he was brought up, how he started defining what were green lights in his life versus road bumps, speed bumps. And I hit this part already last night while introducing this, but he says, while Mom taught us audacious existentialism, Dad taught us common sense. He was a man who valued sirs and ma'ams, discipline, loyalty, persistence, work ethic, humility, rites of passage, respect of women, and making enough money to secure your family. He also painted, took ballet, played for the Green Bay Packers, loved to roll the dice, chase Ponzi schemes, win something instead of buying it, and dreamed of opening a gumbo shack on the beach in Florida if he could ever hit a big lick, big enough to retire. Deconstructing to construct his 3 sons. Dad respected yellow lights, and he made sure we learned the fundamentals before we expressed our individualism. To use a football term, he taught us to block and tackle before we could play wide out. It was clear who the man of the house was, and if any of us 3 boys wanted to challenge that notion, you know where to find me, he'd say. We feared him. Not because he ever hurt or abused us, but because he was our father. We looked up to him. He was above the law and government, and he didn't suffer fools unless you admitted to being one. A bear of a man with a soft spot for the underdog and the helpless, he had a rowdy wit about the world and himself. I'd rather lose money having fun than make money being bored, he'd say. He was also a proud man. If you gave him a second chance, he'd never forget it. One time in the late 80s, after a banker declined a loan to bail him out of debt, he said, now you can shut that door on me, or we can walk through it together. He got the loan, and they walked through it. He loved to host a party, drink beer, tell stories, and he was a hand at all 3. His eldest son was Mike. He had more to do with raising Mike than Pat or me, because 1, Mike was his first, and 2, Dad had to work from the road more often later in life. Mike was a confident, scrappy, hard-working, savvy guy with a hippie heart full of compassion for the runts of the world. Cool under pressure with the pain threshold of a badger, he's the first person you'd want with you when the going gets tough. He's survived so many near deaths, Mom always said about him. You and Pat need praying for. With Mike, it don't matter. Raised on reverence for the Old Testament, we were a religious family, but it wasn't all fire and brimstone. No, the more merciful teachings of Jesus also had their place in our parents' principles. When Mike was in high school, he started to grow long hair. It grew long enough that the coach of his football team, Jim Caldwell, asked him to get it cut. My dad agreed, but Mike refused. Driving Mike to school the next day, my dad said, "You look like a hippie, son, and if you don't cut your hair, Coach is going to cut you from the team." "I don't care, Pop, it's my hair, and if he wants to cut me from the team, then he can cut me. I'm not cutting my hair." "Now, son, listen to me now. Quit being stubborn and just cut your damn hair." Indignant, Mike said, "No, sir, Dad, I'm not doing it." "Son, I'm telling you." "Well, Jesus had long hair too," Mike blurted. Quiet. Playing the religious card was a crafty move, and Mike knew it might have sealed the deal in his favor. Dad, in silence, just continued to drive. Just as they were about to arrive at the school entrance, Mike, believing his Jesus tactic had worked, Dad hit the gas and sped by. "What the hell, Dad? What are you doing?" Mike asked. Dad proceeded to drive 8 miles past Mike's school, not saying a word. Suddenly he pulled off to the side of the road, leaned over and opened the passenger door, pushed my brother out the door and said, "Well, yeah, Jesus walked everywhere too, boy." My brother was late for school that day. Not only because my dad dropped him off 8 miles from it, but because he stopped by the barber shop on his way there, too. We'll talk more about his dad. We'll read another section of that tomorrow. I think that's a very interesting character, his dad. Maybe not the way I would do everything, but he's very interesting. We call that the boot leather express, says Matt Finn. That's right. All right, says Steve. I don't know what that was to. I got to see what's being said here, and I can't see it. Somebody say something so I can scroll the chat room. While it's not there, I can't see it. It disappears after 3 or 4 posts, and then I can't scroll in it. So anyway, folks, that's where we are for tonight. We're done. Here we go. Something, says Matt Finn. Field gut is a ... Group hug, says Michelle Canham Free. Curbside kitty rolled over dog, said Steve. And all right, says Doug Stack. I'm gonna get you, Steve, says Teresa. Sounds like the plot line of Dazed and Confused, says Matt Finn. With a dash of Sparrow. I'm going backwards, so I'm seeing these posts all backwards. My wife has 2 more hours to be semi-young. 44 is going bye-bye. There it is. Happy birthday in 2 more days, Doug's wife. Mrs. Stack. There's a couple we can call them the Stacked. Is that where the captain got his nods of passive aggressiveness tonight, Doug, from you? Might be, Matt Finn. So there you go. You know what? 2 more hours, says Doug. Yeah, right. I can't talk for 2 more hours. Well, wait, I take that back. Yes, I can. I just don't want to. And I've got to eat something. I just did 2 hours of radio, Doug. I was on J.V. Johnson's show before this one, so doing a political roundtable. So, Teresa, I love you. Michelle, I love you. And Field Guy, I love you too. I'm glad you're here. Crystal MacArthur, you have a good night. Good night to you. Doug, good night to you. Oh, less than 2 hours. Sorry, Doug. Less than 2 hours. Yeah, I'll look out for my criminal son. The Lake Charles police now have him in their eyesights. So, Steve, you have a good night. Matt, Finn, Brother Finn, you have a good night. And guys, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. I appreciate that. Steve says, take care, stay safe and healthy wherever all my sisters and brothers may be tonight. Sending much love, peace of mind, heart, and healing to all of you worldwide. Thank you, Steve. That feeling is mutual. Teresa, I try not to handcuff too many people. If you know what I mean. So, thanks for uplifting me tonight, Scotty. Hey, you're welcome, Doug. I'm always here for you, brother. All right, guys, you guys have a good night. I will see you again in about 23 hours. We're going to take that 23-hour break. Macabre Menace, me. Hey, good to see you, Macabre. I'm sorry I missed you. I didn't see you in the scroll-bys. Sterling, good to see you. Sterling is Macabre, if you didn't know that. All the way here from Osaka, Japan, when he shows up. So it's good to have you here, brother. Handcuff you too? Put him out there, brother. And we'll see what we can do. And, all right, guys. Time, says Teresa. It's time. And so, everybody, you have a good night. Thank you for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. This is the Minnesota long goodbye, by the way. They call Minnesota has the Minnesota goodbye. It never really quite ends. So I'm going to go eat something, go hang with my son, and go to bed. Maybe read a little more, something like that. Tomorrow, folks, determine tonight, before you go to bed, that tomorrow is going to be an amazing day. Things are going to happen. You're going to make your expectations work as best as you can. Lower them in some cases, raise them up in some cases. And go out there in the world tomorrow. Some of you are already in tomorrow. Amanda B. and her mom are already in tomorrow. Because over there in Australia, it's like 2 in the afternoon, I think, right now. 2 in the afternoon tomorrow. Thursday. It's already Thursday over there. Damn Grand Meridian. And so all of you have a good day, a good night tonight, a good day today, wherever you are. And we will talk again tomorrow. It's like 3 days ahead in Osaka. Yeah, you're way the hell over there. So, all right, guys, set your sails. Exactly, Matt Finn. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Thanks for joining me. Oh, and live long and prosper. It's always anticlimactic when I go to hit the off button and it doesn't turn off. All right, let's try that again. Wait, back it up. Live long and prosper. Boom.